Hey, sir, thanks very much for joining us. If you could start just by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about yourself.
Nice, yeah. Nice to meet you. So I'm Issa. I a new startup founder of a company called AI Skills Academy, which is an academy or tech company based around AI skills, and we're doing trying to build a platform that measures, tracks, and upskills AI powered workers. So it gives the ability to employers to really track efficiency of members of staff, but more importantly, give them the tools to be much more efficient and productive within the workplace. And we're using AI as a foundation to that, and making sure that they utilize AI skills. Background has largely been in the world of skills. Have been involved in skills for about nearly a decade, from various angles, whether that be through apprenticeships, whether that be through employability, but also from policy and strategic awareness around different types of skills opportunities there are, and stakeholder management around that. So that's kind of where my involvement has been in that. And with AI being the next sort of frontier of technology, it was really imperative for myself to kind of be involved in the AI space, but I want to kind of link it to the stuff that I already know, and that's kind of where my work with AI Skills Academy has come in.
And what was it that made you start AI Skills Academy? Did you have an epiphany moment, or has it been something in the pipeline for a while?
Yeah, so I had left my previous company. I left my previous company, and it was a bit of a gap in terms of kind of understanding where I kind of fit in to what next. And I was abroad at a conference, and they were talking about how it was at the time, probably around about where a couple of months into GPT had come out, and people were talking about how AI is going to really transform workplaces, etc., etc. So I knew about AI from sort of 6, 7 years ago, and I wrote an article about how it's going to change the recruitment space, but I didn't think it would be this soon. I had to review my article when I had this sort of epiphany moment, if you want to call it that. I had to review my article, and I thought to myself, with some of the technologies that are out there, could this be in the next 5 to 10 years happen? Could this be the case that we've got the tools right now to make it happen in 5 to 10 years' time? And that was when I thought, yes, we do. And that's kind of where I thought, well, actually, I'm not going to be alone here, and there's going to be a lot of people to really see how AI is going to be impacting their workflows. So when I came back to the UK, I started talking to a few people about how I discovered this new era of AI, and a lot of people were like, "It's not going to take our jobs. It's not going to do much. It's not going to." It reminded me of the time when, in 2015, I was sat in a place where there's a guy who said, one guy said to another guy, "Be careful be aware of this new company called Uber coming along." It was two cab drivers talking. And one cab driver said, "Look, just download it. You probably get one job a month out of it, but you get one job if anything, and you won't make money on it because it's so early in the days. But you never know where it can go." And that sort of shaped out the way it shaped out. So it is a bit of a longevity game in the world in this space, but I'm very much well aware of that, and I'm very much prepared for it.
Yeah, for sure. I think people haven't realised how fast our AI can impact us, how quick the transformation has been. And yeah, and did you always know you wanted to start a business? Is that something you've always planned to do?
Yeah, yeah, very early on, very early on. 2011 or 12 was my first exposure, buying and selling domains. So I caught the bug quite a long time ago, and we're just waiting for the evolution of that bug now.
Yeah, I get that. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, it's like, I think some entrepreneurs go into it because accidentally fall into it. Then you have the others who've got the bug, always known it. And yeah, that's really, really cool. And what have you found most difficult about building this business? Is there anything specific?
I think the education part. I think there was a lot of when I say education, I don't mean the actual teaching and learning aspect. That's the bit I absolutely love and adore, but it's more you're really re-educating for work, for also re-educating a narrative that's already existed around how technology shapes the future of work and skills. And we've seen technology impact skills for a long time, but not in this format where it means that there's less people involved. So just going to give you an example from our platform that we're trying to build. We're building a platform called SkillSync, which allows companies to measure and track their employees' AI skills adoption efficiencies. So, for example, and a lot of it is the case of our early users have seen that when you input data on there, then you're able to get information, get a general awareness of where your workforce are in terms of adoption, in terms of workplace workplace use of AI, different use cases for AI. However, what we're trying to do now is really automate that process such that it's constant live data, so that if you're getting a task done, it automatically links to our platform and it links to the data. So then it's not necessarily showing the employer that, oh, there's a task done. It's showing that there's a return on investment per employee for completing a particular task in a particular period of time, and the cost benefit of that. Now, what does that mean? Convincing the best part for employers is convincing them that there is a metric that they can see, which is the return on investment side of it. But we're measuring return on investment in different ways. We're measuring in efficiency, we're measuring in productivity, but also that financial return on investment. And then it starts sparking awareness and sparking insight into what else we can achieve with it. The easiest thing to say, and so the hardest thing is probably is getting them aware that these capabilities now exist, because it does still seem a bit far-fetched that you're able to do so much in so little amount of time. And once more companies are aware of it, I think there's got to be a bit of a catch-on moment, a bit of a pivotal moment where it becomes embedded within wider workplaces. And I think that's yet to come. We've seen it, over the course of the last decade, where there's been certain events, and we've got to prepare for the right moment to be able to explode as a company in terms of our growth. But for now, it's all about being engaged with the workplace, getting users to help us build our platform out for their needs, and that's proven to be an exciting challenge.
And you touched on about communicating the value of what can be done. How do you go about doing that? Because I imagine there's so many competing products, and AI is quite overwhelming for businesses who aren't, AI native. How do you communicate the value?
Yeah, very interesting. We're going for a use case approach. Two things actually. We've got a platform called AI Working Skills Forum, which is an event, and we bring together very sort of senior leaders from the Salesforce CTO to startup founders together, and then kind of bring an audience together, and then that's kind of the discussion platform. So that's kind of keeping them engaged, keeping them warm, and then getting them aware of actually what they can be doing in the workplace. The second part to it is really getting the buy-in from the managers to say, look, we need more efficient teams. How do we get more efficient teams? And I think what's starting to work now is that trigger moment of saying, I can do this, this, and this within about 20 minutes versus 3 hours. Classic example is, and sorry, the other part to it is, you don't really need any level of competency to begin. It's just a case of starting. Once you start, you're able to get a full awareness of what is capable for that particular individual. Remember, the most important part is that it's got to be very much individualized or hyper-personalized. And once people start seeing that personal benefit in the workplace, they'll be able to feed that personal benefit back to their line managers, their employers, and then you'll start seeing that feedback loop really changing. It's no longer the case of we will see at the end of the month or we will see at the end of a 360 review. It's a case of you get a review, and that review is constant real-time updates. For the employee, do you know what it is? They can show that they're doing much more effective work, and they can ask for more money.
Yeah, that seems like a great way of quantifying it. And I've seen that you're active on Twitter. And build it in public, do you think that's valuable?
It has its benefits. It has its pros and cons. I think I'll say the con. Let's start with the con here. Is anybody can screenshot what I share online. Anybody can screenshot it upload it to a platform like Bolt, and they'll get exactly the same platform back. You can do that with Twitter, you can do that with Facebook, you can do that with all sorts of platforms, banking platforms, etc. But I think what they don't, an individual who may want to do that may not have is the fact that we've got a purpose behind what we're trying to do. It's not the case of, yes, I can create multiple layers of CRMs and say, oh, I can do this, I can do that. Yes, that's showing different uses, but the applications side of it is that's kind of where we're differentiating, in a sense that we're trying to solve some real problems for workplaces, which surround by the skills gap needs, and that's kind of the angle that we're going for, rather than have we created another app for the workplace. So I'm personally really excited about how it can actually change the way in which we can work and change the way in which we can shape the future of work. But to do that, we need to be able to get employers and employees knowing where they stand and how they can make that improvement over time.
And I often see a lot of similar people in the industry either have a ball with marketing or building. How do you go about that? Do you work with co-founders? Do you have technical people, marketers working with you, or
No. So a lot of my work is, we've got one or two freelancers we're working with on an ad hoc basis, and then it is myself leading the company. We're actually raising right now, so we're raising a small round now to be able to help fund the people growth as well. Because I think there is a talent shortage. There is a talent shortage that I've got that I need to go and be able to enable growth within the company, and so make sure that the right people are accessing this platform. Part of the purpose of building out in public, which is kind of linked to your previous question, is to be able to really get other people excited who may be looking for their next opportunity, who may have experience, and then see how I can kind of work with them and they can work with me. Because yes, there is the idea of potentially getting a co-founder or an individual who can really work with me on this journey. And I think in many of these cases where a co-founder scenario works, it's got to really work for that individual. They both have to be passionate about it. So yes, there is that angle of kind of looking for a co-founder potentially in the not so near future.
That makes total sense, yeah, because I think having a co-founder can be one of the best things, but it's also so difficult. It's almost like getting married, so it's not something to be taken lightly. But
it is, and importantly, their livelihoods are in your hands, and your livelihood is in their hands. And to use the term marriage, yes, 100%, it is a partnership in some way, shape, or form. And I've been looking a lot into this about how co-founder stories are co-founders fall out, and a lot of reason for that is down to not understanding each other's vision, which is important, but also the ability to really have a strategic map in place for each individual to kind of say, well, this is what I want to get out of it, this is what you want to get out of it. And they may go out a bit, but then they all have to come back through to a central vision, which is kind of the organization plans. Now, me being somebody who's kind of led the company for a year now, will have a very sort of narrow or view of what I want, and it's about finding someone who can actually expand that viewpoint using their experiences to be able to really open the doors for what we can achieve and what we're trying to achieve and what we're hoping to achieve as well.
Yeah, it's always difficult to, like you say as well, to get someone as passionate who is about your vision and understands it. So it's very difficult to do that. Sometimes that's why it's so hard to find a co-founder. But what would you say is your vision over the next 2 to 5 years for the business?
We want to build the best HR platform for AI skills and AI talent. So we want to build an end-to-end solution for employers, purely focusing on AI capabilities within the workplace. And that will largely focus on making sure that the workforce can be tracked, making sure that they can build teams with AI skills quickly as well. So, for example, if they need to build a team for a particular use case and they're lacking in certain skills, they come on our platform, they can measure it, track it, and deploy that team there. But also, it's being the place for AI skills. Now, we're focusing largely on non-technical talent. So technical talent meaning you've got developers, you've got software developers, coders, data analysts, etc. These are technical talent, very much needed in this space. We're focusing on non-technical talent. We're focusing on marketers who don't have any, so marketers who now have AI skills, customer service agents who can build customer service chatbots for themselves for a particular role. So imagine an individual can then go on to another company, and they're carrying a certain skill set with them, but that'll be attributed to us and how we've trained that individual up.
And going back to the topic of just more general entrepreneurship, you said about how you started selling domains, that sort of thing. Like, tell me a little bit more about that, like your history.
Yeah, it was a case of finish university and sort of just started playing around with domains. It was like £4 at the time, and playing around with them, and I really got a taste of it, and that sort of led to kind of multiple, I would say about 8-9 failure brands that companies or startups that I wanted to start but just didn't work out. And the irony is that I keep falling back into some of the themes that I had back then, but in the newer ventures I've had, more recent ventures I've had in the last 5 years, because I was talking to somebody about that, and he said largely down to the fact that you've still got the same vision for making sure we've got skilled workplaces, skilled teams, skilled unemployed people getting jobs, etc. So that passion of mine hasn't gone, but it's just manifested in a different way at each phase of my career.
And you said there was 8 or 9 failures. What would you say is the thing you've learned most from these? Is there anything that stands out?
Yeah, I think it's taken me a long time to realize that you need to fail fast. I'd say in this particular venture, I made a full switch quite quickly. I wouldn't, like, for example, I'll give you an example. We wanted to get into hiring AI talent. And I know there's a lot of people doing hiring AI talent, non-technical talent, hiring marketers with AI skills. But the moment you realize that the marketplace just doesn't understand it yet, put it on the back burner and keep it there. So about a couple of weeks ago, our tagline was hire, train, and upskill. Now it's manage, track, and upskill AI. So measure, track, and upskill AI talent. So I think we've made some change. I've made some changes along the way, and I am starting to react a bit more faster to kind of what market needs are, and really understand, well, actually, a lot of companies are still very far behind where they want to be, but they just don't know where they are. They don't know where they stand, and that's kind of where the measurement side of it comes in. If we can help them measure their AI capabilities and AI their capabilities, and more importantly, and I would say this is more than anything, the small to medium-sized companies who will probably lose out massively on how all these tools exist, but they just don't know how to put it together. So I'll give you an example, marketing. There's a bunch of good free tools out there. How do you build a marketing campaign and deliver that marketing campaign in 1 hour? And these are some of the challenges we set for our employees that we're working with, to be able to get them to understand the power that they can have at their hands.
Certainly on that, I think, yeah, like you say, it can be quite overwhelming for especially small to medium companies who don't have the expertise or the budget, because there's so many tools out there. Like, for example, if you just want to create a marketing campaign using AI, there's probably 1,000 tools to learn them. You've got to read everything, understand it. And yeah, I think there's going to be a huge sort of increase in the next year or so of companies trying to really understand these tools and be able to get the most out of them. It's like sort of when the internet came and computers, no one really knows what they're used for. They were used by nerds, and then now everyone's got them and we know how to use them. So yeah, I can completely see that. And in terms of learning yourself, obviously you're doing a lot of educating. Like, how do you like to educate and learn yourself?
Practice. I mean, I'll give you an example. I've been building my dashboard for the new platform through using AI tools. So it's a case of knowing what AI tools are out there, and really utilizing the ability to prompt engineer, to copy and paste code, understand code, because what you really have, and I mentioned this in our code in our program, the marketing one, is what you really have is like an Einstein in your pocket, and you can ask it absolutely anything, whether that be medical. Now, word of warning here, you don't have to take everything that it says. Sometimes it does hallucinate, don't get me wrong, and always seek advice where possible. But there is just the capabilities of it has. It's beyond human comprehension. One thing you have to understand is human intelligence has plateaued a bit. So as technology has come in, technology has become more advanced, but human intelligence has actually plateaued a bit. And what I mean by that is computers themselves are now become much more intelligent, and technology has become much more intelligent, which means that we don't need to be. So we are plateauing as a nation, or as a body, regarding the things we know. And a classic example of that is how many people handwrite right now, and it goes to show that a particular skill that was once very much favored, or a much more lucrative skill for calligraphy artists, etc., is now becoming a dying art, and we will start seeing a lot more of that over the next 5 years. I wouldn't say 10 years, I would say 5 years.
And how do you see humans, like, obviously there's going to be a lot of intelligence plateau, but then there's going to need to be people, building these AIs, using them, prompting them. Do you think there'll be a big split between like those who can use AI and or are able to use it and those who can't?
Yeah, the gap will it will push. I think the hardest impact, the most who are impacted, will probably be the middle class, because it will either push them into the case of a no, don't want to use it, and they'll lose out, or it will push the middle class into we're using it, we're becoming much more richer. So there is a discussion around about how it will impact social mobility and socioeconomic societies right now. That conversation is going to be forever evolving.
Yeah, for sure. I think as AI capabilities increase, the conversation is going to evolve, and we're going to be more aware of what's actually happening and how it's going to impact people. Do you see? I often see the argument for like universal basic income, and what do you think of that? Do you think that could be potential, or?
It's certainly an important discussion to have. I don't want to say no to the topic itself. I think there's going to be a lot more people having a lot more autonomy over the ability to complete certain tasks. But I also say that with AI now, you're able to do things in ways in which you were not able to do previously. So let's just give an example: copywriting. Now, a person who may have a physical disability, who has a disability of being unable to walk, and which means they're unable to do certain jobs, etc., they can now, hypothetically speaking, use a GPT service or a Claude service to be able to do copywriting for a particular organization. And the key thing is that they understand how to use GPT or Claude, because if you just pump out what it gives you, then the quality of the work it produces is very poor. But a writer who has been unfortunately unable to travel and lost a lot of work, and now is now able to produce a bunch of content, look at that content, and then actually deploy that content with high quality, with the quality that he or she would have done previously. But then coming back to universal basic income, I think the benefit structure will change significantly. I think there will be a certain category of people who will be able to work, and a certain category of people who will be unable to work. I also believe that, and I think this may link to UBI, is I think that there should be a bit of an innovation fund. What that innovation fund does is that it gives people a bit of a kickstart to gaining a self-employed career, or a career itself, where they can learn these tools and learn these resources, and to be able to go out there and really earn money utilizing it. So yeah, I mean, I've not given you much of a clear answer regarding UBI, because I think it's neither here or there.
It's almost impossible to as well, right? Like,
Yeah, of course. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had a CTO on a panel recently, and he said there'll be needs for UBI very imminently with universal credit, and everybody will have some form of a benefit system. I personally believe, I think that we've not actually yet experienced the market shift yet. We know about it, but there's a lot of noise and not actually much change.
Yeah, I agree with that, and yeah, I think I'm noticing when you say about the point you made on the copywriting. I think I'm noticing that myself, as like, if you can be good at prompting the AI tools, being able to use them, not just because it's a skill in itself. Like people think you can just put something into AI and it does the job. The skill is getting AI to do what you want. It's almost as like now we're being managers rather than doing a job. So yeah, for sure. And I've noticed a difference in efficiencies in the last 2 years. Like now I can get reports out in a day, which would take me 10 days before. And yeah.
And the funny thing is that there's a lot of people that know how that use GPT but don't know how to do these functions. And I think that's kind of where the gap is. That it's not just a case of I can use Microsoft Word. It's a case of how can you use Microsoft Word to be able to do various things. Similarly with GPT or the various AI platforms. And again, I come back to non-technical talent because that's kind of where the use case approach is, where you have people who are not necessarily technical, but there's a bunch of tools out there they can amalgamate together and create their own personalized tech stack to execute on what they do from a day-to-day perspective.
It's sort of leveling the playing field, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like people before couldn't code, but now people are able to converse with computers to get the computers to do what they want.
Exactly. Indeed.
Yeah. So, it was amazing having you on. It's great to see what you're doing at AI Skills Academy. It's always good to see people building businesses that have impact and are, on the frontier of technology. So great to what you're doing. And it's also great to speak to you. So thanks ever so much for coming on.
The pleasure's mine. And thank you very much for your time.